There you are. Yeah. Thank you. That's what I was going to ask. So Kelly let me know he's been having some problems with his internet connection. So hopefully things are good and we'll be able to have the entire meeting without any issues. But if we see him disappear, we know why. And we'll take it. We won't take it personally. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. So welcome everyone to our monthly meeting. Hopefully we'll get some great information for everyone here tonight. Tom, I think we're picking up a bunch of background noise from you.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
All right, so we're going to start off with the updates from APD. Commander Sanchez, you want to give us an update on the Northwest?
Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody's doing good. There's not a whole lot to go over. We're still working on some of our TAC plans, our POP projects. As you know, with this month, we have new personnel. We had a bid change on the 28th of August. So for the most part, we had a lot of our officers come back to the area command, but we did get, I pretty much got a brand new staff with lieutenants and sergeants, which is it's great. And it's always good to have the same, a lot of the same supervisors that come back to the area commands. But the way that our bid was done, some of our lieutenants that wanted to come back weren't able to make it, and just because of seniority. But it is good to have fresh thoughts and people with new ideas that can help us make the area command a little bit better. We've been doing pretty good on property crimes. We've actually seen some pretty good reductions in the area command. The one part that we did see a little bit, we're having a few struggles with are the commercial burglaries, especially some of the storage units. That's where we're getting hit a little bit. So we're trying to work with some of the owners of those properties. We did our business coalition meeting for Cottonwood on the 8th of September. That worked out. It was good. We had a few people turn out, but it did give us an opportunity to start spreading the word to the other businesses. Just like I stressed in the past, is that it is important. It's not just about the business itself. It's about the community that goes into the businesses. We're not just trying to make the business safe and making sure that they're, that they don't have any issues, but at the same time, it's for those customers that are coming in. So it is important, especially here in the Northwest. Business are they're very, very important to our area command. And so we are working on those. We're going to continue to have them. And I think that's pretty much about it, about where we're at. So of course, I'll be here for any questions that any may have. Oh, and somebody mentioned it. I do want to remind you all that we are having our coffee with the cop at Chick-Fil-A. So please come by. The last one that we had at Starbucks, and I believe it was July, was very successful. I know I saw several of you there. I hope to see more of you there. I think it is really good, not just for them to see the police department, but I think for the CPC, it's important because a lot of times it'd be good for the community to also see and have somebody there to answer those questions. And one thing you can do there, the same thing that you keep wanting to do, recruit. Just like we're trying to recruit for the department, it's good for you to be there and recruit for the CPC. So we're hoping to see some of you there, and but that's it.
Okay, we'll have more details on the coffee with a cop a little later, and we'll put it
Yes.
in the chat for everyone. It was on the agenda as well. Tom, you had a question?
Yeah, a number of years ago, we had a bunch of lawyers come down and talk to us and tell us that they arrest people, you arrest people, you give them a ticket, you show up in court, and Walmart doesn't prosecute. Is that still going on?
So we do sometimes, it does happen sometimes. But I think it is it's a combination of a lot of things. I know recently we've had a lot, there has been a lot of discussions regarding the justice system, especially the courts and the DA's office. And, the reality is that that a lot of those cases do get dropped. Sometimes it can be because of the workload and trying to prosecute all those cases. But I will say that we've been working with at least our Walmart, both of our Walmarts, and they do have loss prevention officers that at times don't show up to work or to the court. But I don't want to make it sound like they're not working with us, because they are. It's just a lot of times there's, and I'll kind of paint a picture for you. Let's say you have a loss prevention officer, right? And we have cited 10 people. And it's that same loss prevention officer, that same employee. I think it does be at some point, even though it's a big box store, it does become for the managers there a little bit of a task to try to get them to the courts all the time. And that's just a reality. And I'll be honest, until we find a better way with our court system and how these cases get dismissed. I'll be honest, and I've been honest with you in the past. I think we have a lot of flaws in our justice system. I don't think it's any particular individual's fault. I think it's just the system as a whole. So it does.
Yeah, but you have to send an officer to the court from our time, and they don't show up.
Yeah, and it's not just, again, I don't want to pass and I don't want to say that it's just because there's a lot of variables. Sometimes the officers can't make it. Sometimes the loss prevention officer can't make it, and the officer can. Sometimes a witness can't make it, and the officer can. There's a lot of variables. What happens in a case is, if we have a situation where we have the loss prevention officer as a witness, right? We have them, we have the Walmart as a victim, and let's just say we have one or two witnesses that saw that an incident happen. All that is part of discovery, and part of that discovery is being able to interview those witnesses. So when you have one witness that may have just been a customer, 9 times out of 10, that case is going to get dropped if that witness says, I don't want to go to court. It's just, I don't think it has anything to do with the specific organization, company. It just, the system as a whole, in my opinion, it just has to be revamped. There has to be something done.
It needs a fix.
It needs some work, definitely does need some work. And we're seeing that with some of our violent crime offenders where, we see it. And we just had a call with an individual that he'd been hitting all of our businesses. I think he was good for about 10 robberies in that same local area, and he's got a history. And so I think it's something that we all as a community have to work towards and try to figure it out.
Yeah, it really, as you said, it's a lot of moving parts that have to all come together at the same time. And it's an issue that we all face with the court system, and the shoplifting crimes. A lot of them are, they're relatively minor, and it's hard to get all of those moving parts together for a crime where, like you said, if a witness doesn't want to cooperate, then that can scuttle the case right there. And a lot of these things are out of the control of the department and out of the control of the DA. But as you said, hopefully there's a better way to deal with these things in general. And but it's above everyone here's pay grade. but hopefully we can all play a part in helping to develop that and influencing the right people to come up with a better solution for handling these.
Yeah, absolutely. As a community, we have to
Yeah.
together. It's so.
I just want to say, if anybody has questions, we have the chat available, so please type your question into the chat, and we'll do our best to get it addressed for you. All right, I don't see any questions coming up so far, so thank you, Commander, and then something just popped up in the Q&A. So when warrants are issued by the courts, how is APD notified that a warrant has been issued?
That's a very, very good question. In fact, we had that discussion not too long ago. We don't necessarily get notified that there's a warrant. A lot of times, the way that we do warrant service is a lot of times we'll just take, we used to have what we used to call warrant roundups. We don't have those as much. Investigative units do sometimes have those warrant roundups for violent crimes. I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that that's what we're doing. We may have a list of warrants here in the area command or an idea, because it's very easy for us to pull those warrants and start to. Our supervisors just don't have the resources to be able to do it. As we talked in the last meeting, I mean, there's no way that with 47 officers that I have working the whole area command that I can afford or they can afford to have officers go out and knock on doors. But I will say that the department is working on with the courts on those who are on probation or parole. We're working on a notification from the courts and probation and parole through whether it's an email or I'm not sure exactly how they're going to do that, but my understanding is it's probably going to be through an email where it's going to be, hey, this individual just violated, his probation. They didn't show up. They cut their monitor or whatever it is. It's going to lead to a warrant, and they're going to and probation and parole is looking as it looks like they're going to be issuing out that warrant the moment it happens and give us notification. But as far as in general, we don't get the notification where a warrant has been issued. We may not know about a warrant, till an officer stops them. The other thing that we are doing and working with the courts on is, especially in some of the violent crimes, is that we are going to start going to some of the hearings, depending on the crime is. And I mean, whether it's me as a commander or a representative from my area command, but there's going to be people that are going to be going to some of these hearings. We can't go to all of them, even if we move it around through all the supervisors, but I think we're going to have, especially some of the more violent crimes. And I think part of it is going to be for accountability, to be honest with you. And we need to. Accountability, not just on us, but accountability on the DAs that are there and on the judges, and to see why people are being released. And sometimes it will be our fault. I mean, we are looking at patterns to see how some of those cases are being dropped. And if it's those situations where officers aren't getting reports or they're missing something on stolen vehicles, important information, then we have to be held accountable for that also. And we need to make sure that our officers are getting that information, these patterns, as to why these cases are getting dropped. So.
Okay, and there's a couple of follow-ons to that. Just to clarify, there's no routine notice of warrants that goes out to the area commands?
I'm sorry, the notice of warrants?
Yeah, so you guys don't get a notice of warrants through your area?
No.
Okay.
No, we don't. We just pull up lists. We can request a warrants list from warrants, but we don't have Yeah, we don't get those notifications. And I'll be honest, as a commander, I mean, I mean, it would be good to get that, you know, and send it out to the officers, but I think it may be a little bit overwhelming for the officers because there are so many warrants. Now, I think if we start doing more, you know, with our felony crimes, even then, you know, it may be a little bit more manageable, but I'll be honest, we just would not have the resources. We can get those warrants list, but I don't think it's just realistically, the resources aren't there.
Yeah.
That's just the reality. We wouldn't be able to go do warrants
Okay.
like that with at least not from the patrol officers.
Commander,
And
just clarify, because I see down here in the chat, you know, when an officer makes contact, and I notice this on the ride-alongs, when they do make contact with an individual, even though he's known, and they do run him, that's where the warrants will show up. And I
Yeah,
have to agree with you. I would only guess to say how many warrants are issued daily out of the court system. But for clarification, if these people are in the neighborhood and they do get stopped for a traffic violation, or an officer
yes.
makes contact because they're loitering around the Albertsons at Coors and Montano and there's a complaint, the officer will run the background check, so to speak, on the person, and that's where the warrant pops up.
Yes, most of the time, I would say 9 times out of 10,
Yeah.
you know, of course, there's gonna be those situations where an officer may contact somebody who may be doing something, you know, they may not run that individual if there's other things that are going on. I don't want to say here and say every
Mhm.
single contact where somebody may be breaking the law, officers are running them, just because that's, you know, I don't think it'd be accurate, but yes, 9 times out of 10, officers are running those individuals to make sure they don't have warrants, if they have a reason to detain that person.
Right.
The other thing is, now in the area commands, we do sometimes, if there's a specific individual that we're looking for, right, or that we have had issues with, and I'll give you I bring this guy that they just arrested earlier today that was doing all those robberies. The PRT and some of the field officers were able to identify it just because they knew who he was on the surveillance video, they knew who he was. But because at the time, the witnesses, because his face was covered, they couldn't quite do a field ID, so the witnesses went in, but because he had warrants already, we were already actively looking for him on those warrants. It just so happened that today he committed another robbery, and we were finally able to get to where he was.
now, when an officer runs someone, let's say on a traffic stop, and they come back with misdemeanor warrants, are the officers arresting people based on those, let's say, local warrants? Because I know if we're out of jurisdiction, then it becomes an issue of extradition and other things. But so an officer runs someone, they come back with a local warrant for a misdemeanor. Are the officers arresting those people on those warrants, or how are they handling that?
It depends. It depends on what the warrant's for. Not always. Again, there's different variables. It depends on, you know, on what the warrant's for. It depends on what the contact was. In this case, we're talking about traffic stops. Officers may choose not to arrest that person and say, you know what, you need to get this warrant taken care of. And does manning for them play a part? Absolutely. Do I, as a commander, wish it didn't? Of course, but I will be honest that it does in the officer's mind, because they're trying to get to some of those calls. I'll tell you, I think it's, you know, I see the numbers, and we're not taking people into custody as much as we used to for warrants. And there's those variables. There's other variables where, you know, where it really depends. But I don't want to say that everybody is getting arrested on those warrants, because that they're not.
And can you,
One arrest to take an officer off the street, whether they transport to PTC or they transport out to MDC. PTC probably closer, but you're still gonna knock him off the beat for an hour and a half.
Well,
Yeah.
you know what? I would take an hour and a half. I think I'd
Yeah.
be good with an hour. If I could get an officer, if an officer would arrest somebody, everything was perfect, everything was great, right? And it was just from the traffic stop, putting them in handcuffs and getting them processed even at the PTC. An hour and a half, I could live with, and I think the supervisors could live with, but an hour and a half definitely is
Still
not.
isn't.
I would
Yeah.
say, 2.5 hours, that's just something simple. They can get them in handcuffs, get them down there, now if it turns into possible use of force or something like that, then we're talking about hours. I mean, hours and hours and hours. And so,
It all, as we keep coming back to the issues that we face as a community, it's a matter of trying to balance the resources. And when you've got a dozen calls holding and some of them are higher priority, does it make sense for an officer to take himself off the street for 3 hours to process somebody on a misdemeanor warrant? It's a judgment call that officer has to make at that point. And certainly when we've got felony warrants and we've got violent crime warrants, I think those very likely are going to be handled differently. But we've only got so many resources, and it's a tough call to try to balance that out. And yeah, it'd be nice for everyone in the department to know every warrant that gets issued that may impact them, or be able to say every person that comes back with a warrant is going to get processed in some way. I agree, as you said, we're just not there resource wise. And again, maybe there's a better way of handling these things, or a different way of handling them than we have now. But it's something I think that the entire community needs to make decisions about where our priorities are, and what we want to put forth to handle those issues. There is another, let's see. Let me go back to we had let me actually hit the Q&A here. What about warrant blitzes? How many of those are planned a year? And is that something that's planned by the area commands, or is that just handled from somebody else?
no, usually it's done as a department as a whole. They do it as a whole. Or it may be, sometimes you may have them throughout the state in different jurisdictions where they say, hey, you know what? There's going to be a warrant roundup, and I would have to check the date, but I would say that it has been a very long time since we've done it as a whole, like for a whole department. I know that our investigative units they do go out and look for some of those offenders, especially in violent crimes that have outstanding warrants. And they focus on violent crimes, but it may be those individuals who are committing auto thefts too. They may be property crimes, but may also have some kind of nexus with regards to gun crimes. And so it just right now, because our focus has been violent crime for almost a year now. That's really where they focus on it. So.
Yeah. And we have a couple of comments that really kind of echo the same thing. And it's a problem I think we're all dealing with. If people know that the warrants that are being issued are not necessarily going to be enforced, what kind of a message are we sending to those criminals and to the community? And I think that's, again, it's an issue that we're all facing, and the criminals know that they're playing roulette basically with any time that they commit a crime. There's a chance that those warrants are going to come up, and if they get caught speeding, those warrants are going to come up. Whether they're acted on or not depends on the circumstances. But every warrant that goes out is another charge, and so when somebody does get picked up on even a minor crime, all of those warrants are going to come back and haunt them, and it's going to determine whether they get out of MDC or not. But with the new bail system that we as a community voted for and put into the Constitution, there's a limit to how much the judges and the DAs can do. Even if the police were arresting every single person for every single warrant, we can't keep people locked up on misdemeanors. And we're having trouble keeping them locked up on felonies in a lot of cases. So it's part of a bigger system that we need as a community to address. And I hope folks realizing what's going on and hearing from the commander and hearing from others what's really happening with criminals in this city, hopefully we can motivate some change. And it's going to take all of us coming up with better solutions. Maybe, I know the DA's office has done some work where they'll follow up on people with warrants to try to get them to come in and get those cleared, especially if they're minor warrants, without having to go through the entire arrest process. So maybe more resources put into programs like that that don't involve our police officers having to be off the street for 3 hours at a time. Maybe that's a solution that we need to look at. And perhaps we as a CPC can have the DA's office come back out and talk to us about what's going on their side to deal with issues like warrants and trying to keep people locked up on charges and things like that, and get some idea from their side on what we can do as a community. But it's an issue we're all dealing with. And I think the more awareness we can get of the problems that we face and the department faces, the better off we all are. It's not a pretty picture that we're drawing here. It really isn't. And attention's being drawn to it in the papers and on TV. And we got to come up with solutions that involve all of us and all of these moving parts. And if we can bring those pieces together and come up with a solution, great. That's what we need to do. But there's no single point or place we can point to and say this is an APD problem, or this is a problem with the DA's office, or anything like that. It's all of these parts coming together. It's going to take us coming up with community solutions and new ways of approaching these things. Okay, we do have another comment came up in the chat about Friday and Saturday nights. Groups of 20 to 30 motorcycles driving around the neighborhoods near Cottonwood Mall, driving on the wrong side of the road, splitting lanes, running red lights, speeding. Are you aware of these motorcycles and are you working to stop them? The last time our person here, Clinton, called 242 cops, he ended up on hold for 24 minutes on hold. And that is a whole nother issue with trying to get through on the non-emergency line. So are you aware of these issues Friday, Saturday nights, and is it being addressed?
We are. It has been an issue for us for many years. We are. I will tell you that there was, I believe, I'll have to get the date, but they did do an operation with regards to drag racing. And the biggest concern with that is that a lot of times it's very hard because most of those groups that are out there racing on those motorcycles and speeding, they're not going to stop for us. In fact, in the past, there have been some of those that are, a lot of times they want officers to get behind them. They're doing it because they want officers to get behind them and initiate so they can run, and they know we're not going to pursue. Now, I deal with it when I was in the Valley as a lieutenant a lot, not just as a drag racing, but a lot of the motorcycles. And so I know we've done a lot of public servants announcements. We've done operations. For me, I think one of the things that I've been working on to try to to put out is people, a lot of times when people have, when you hit their pocketbooks, they tend to, I mean, in my opinion, a lot of times, especially in this situation, they tend to listen a little bit more. Now, one of the things that I have been trying to work on, and it's just very, very new. I brought it up probably about 5 years ago, 4 years ago, yeah, probably about 5 years ago when I was a lieutenant in the Valley, is trying to find a way that when we do these operations and we are able to get the license plates of these vehicles that are involved, they're not going to stop. They're being able to get those. And a lot of times, after the fact, we may not be, if we can't identify the driver, we may not be able to charge those individuals. But start thinking about sending notices to the registered owners and sending notices and letting them know, it's still very in the very early parts, because there's a lot of barriers that I have to make sure that aren't, obviously it has to be approved through the department, but notifying insurance companies, especially when we're able to show, with videos, look, here's your vehicle, here's your license plate. Yeah, we couldn't charge anybody, but this vehicle, and getting a hold of those registered owners, letting them know that we are going to notify insurance companies because this is what they're doing. Now, could I have, could I have a different effect of what are insurance companies going to do? We're not doing it because we want insurance companies to start dropping these individuals, but a lot of times a lot of them that are involved are youngsters that, that maybe their parents don't know, or maybe, or maybe they do, but they're, I don't know, but letting them know that there could be consequences, and financial consequences, to me, in those cases, are probably better than arrests or jail time. But that's just from my experience, and those are things that I'm going to be proposing. But again, we are working on different things, so we do look at it and try to come up with, different ideas on how to address it.
Commander, I want to support you on what you said there. The motorcycles, they won't stop. Okay. And for the public and everybody else on here, one, PD, like most agencies, have a chase policy. So they're going to follow that. But when it comes to a motorcycle, they can pit a car and they can spike strip a car, but you're not allowed to spike strip a motorcycle. Okay. Those things are effective for four-wheel vehicles, and I get it. I see videos all over the United States of motorcycle gangs, so to speak, or clubs, doing dangerous stuff, in my opinion, and there's no stopping them. I mean, your hands are tied on, if they want to run, they're going to run. And that's what they do. I see them run checkpoints, DUI checkpoints, and the officers just have to stand by. Where if a four-wheel vehicle runs a DUI checkpoint, you got some PSAs there that are eager to throw the spike strips out, and they're effective. But you can't do that to a motorcycle. And just like in the case over around the Cottonwood Mall, you can't do it. You can't, when they're going to run, they're going to run. So I think you're spot on, Commander, what you said. It's a hard thing to combat. And I know you're not giving an excuse, because I know you too well. That stuff, just, the motorcycle people, they just don't get it.
Or they get it and they don't care. They're, this, as you said, Commander, part of part of their motivation is to get the cops to chase them. And so many of these things now are being filmed and uploaded to YouTube and TikTok and wherever else. And that's part of the goal for them, is to try to get as many cops as they can involved. And it's unfortunate.
And we are doing education too. We
Yeah.
are doing a lot of education. In fact, we had especially after we had an incident already in one of our homicides up here in the Northwest. The last homicide that we had was out by Double Eagle Airport. It was a result of the drag racing that was happening out by Double Eagle. There was an altercation, and one of the young kids ended up getting shot out there, because it's happening, and it does attract that, those type of crimes. And, I don't want to, even with the warrants, I don't want to make it seem like for us, oh, it's just a little thing, because it's not a little thing. Even with, when an officer or stops somebody for a traffic warrant, because the bottom line is, especially those that are involved in a lot of different things, they're, if they go to jail, even if it's for a day or 2 days, it may reduce, or prevent them from going out and committing that crime. So it is just trying to find the best way, because we have tried, I mean, we do the enforcement, we do the operations, but that can't be everything for us. There has to be that educational part, and we do go out and do public service announcements. But I think it's going to be very important that we start to, I don't want to say, I'll say it. We have to hold ourselves accountable. And I don't mean we as police officers. I mean, we as a community, because I will tell you that there is a lot of times when, whether it's as parents or ever, a lot of times we want to come up with excuses as to why our youngsters are doing that, or why our family members or even our friends. And it's important as a community that we realize and that we start working together to try to increase that education, not just through us, but through you, through your neighbors, through your friends, to be able to reach out and start talking to them about those cases that you know about, and the tragedies that come out, or if you know a group that could benefit from us, we can go out there and talk to them, because we sometimes it's better when we have the community talking on our behalf, because but what I say, we have to hold each other accountable, is that it's not just, we have to make sure that as a community that we understand that it is up to every single one of us. And when we see or hear about those parents, because we all know, and I'm not saying the parents are bad or anything, but sometimes we always want to protect our own, and it's important. And it takes somebody from the outside to say, you know what, well, hold on, wait, maybe what they were doing wasn't quite the right thing for them to do. And that's what we all need to do.
So I just want to say on a related note, when folks see things like this, what's going on around Cottonwood or other areas where we've had these problems of speeding and racing, et cetera, if folks can get whatever details are available to them and get that to Pete Gelibert, he's on here tonight, he's the crime prevention specialist. The more details you can provide, the more chance there is for the department to put resources where they need to be to catch these folks in the act. And with the motorcycles, we may not be able to stop every one of them or catch every one of them, but they're going to screw up at some point and they're going to get caught. And the more information we have, the better. And, the more detail we can get, the better. And the commander has just put his email in the chat. So if you can, let us know, let the department know when and where, then they can plan for operations to go after those folks. We have, go ahead.
No,
Go ahead, Jeff.
I was just going to say, everybody on the call, next time you're behind a whole bunch of motorcycles, take a look and you tell me if you can get a license plate number. 90% of them stick them, they're displayed on the rear, which they have to be, and they are readable if you get close enough. But visualize that in the dark when they're over there at Cottonwood Mall. Usually they hide them up under the seat. They're not really hiding them, they are displaying them. But motorcycles is a tough one, and I do know agencies of APD have gotten with motorcycle clubs and talked to them about the rowdiness and the display of wheelies going down the interstate and all that. And to your point, Eric, they're going to screw up and get caught. And usually when that is, someone got killed, someone got hurt. And then that's when it is. So if you know the people, if you know anybody that rides the motorcycles, just, tell them, take it on out, to, I don't know where, a high school parking lot or somewhere like that and do their wheelies, not on the interstate, not around the Cottonwood Mall.
Yeah, maybe that's again another thing that the community can look for. We have the Sandia Speedway that puts on, amateur drag racing events and things like that. Maybe I don't know, probably insurance regulations make it difficult, but maybe some of our local businesses could sponsor these stunt driving shows. We've seen it in relation to some of the other motorcycle events, and these kids are doing amazing things on their bikes, but let's do it somewhere safer for everyone, including them, and not out on the interstates or on our residential roads. So maybe that's something else that the community can work on and come up with better ways to show off their skills than to be doing it on the streets like that. We do have another comment, Commander. We have a peeping Tom in the neighborhood. We know who he is and where he lives, but we don't have enough data to get an arrest.
So
What
just
should-
send me an email directly. If you want to send me an email directly with all the information, and then we'll look at it. That way we can get a little bit more information on it. I know we did, and I think we talked about it before. We did make an arrest on that. Well, we charged that one gentleman who was exposing himself at CNM and throughout all of the Northwest. So we were able to get him charged, identified and charged. And again, it was because we were able to track down a witness. And I want to keep reminding everybody, please make sure that you notify us. Don't put it on Facebook. I mean, you can put it on Facebook, put it on Nextdoor. That's fine, whatever you want to do with that, but encourage everyone in the community to notify us too. And I said, sometimes we just get lucky and we see something on Nextdoor and say, you know what, before it gets out of hand, but make sure you notify us on that. And I did see the other one, Eric, with ShotSpotter. We're going live today. I believe it's today. We will be going live with ShotSpotter for the Northwest.
Excellent.
And so, it is working very well. I am glad that we're getting it finally. Right now, it's going to be concentrating down south by Coors and I-40 and in that area. Hopefully, eventually, we'll get it to other areas. But it has been working great. Does it increase the number of calls for service for us? Absolutely, it does. But it allows us to respond to these calls a lot faster. And one of the concerns was that, we're spending, a lot of money. And that is correct. The city is spending a lot of money on these things, on the service. But it is worth it because it's not about just us responding quicker. It's because of the new process that we created for this. It really comes down to evidence. We have gotten incidents or had incidents where we've actually, the officers in the Southeast arrested, ended up making an arrest right after somebody shot somebody because of ShotSpotter. They saw the guy walking away, and I believe it was even a homicide. And those do happen at times, but it's more than that, because you will hear this. You will hear about the money that's being spent. But I will tell you, if I didn't think it was worth it, I would tell you. I think I've been pretty honest in the last 8 months with you. It is because it is about evidence. To me, the number one thing is about evidence. And when we just get a call from a community member saying, hey, we heard 5 shots somewhere in the area, right? Then, okay, an officer can respond, but it's not they won't know where to start and look, because they could have been 5, 6, 7 blocks away. But ShotSpotter, the way that it is, an officer will respond. They will get out and do it within a certain radius. They will walk out, look for evidence. And If it happens at night and they don't locate anything, a call is generated the next morning where our crime prevention specialist will go out a second time during daylight and do another search of that area. And a lot of times they'll find casings. And that's where it becomes important, is finding those casings. Because once they go in, they go through NIBIN, and you will be surprised how many cases they have been able to close because of that, and how many cases have been tied into each other and offenders. And that is really the most important thing, is the evidence.
So just for folks that aren't aware, ShotSpotter is a system that has microphones deployed around certain areas. And when that system detects gunshots, it generates a notification and gives essentially a location based on triangulation of where those shots occurred. What happens, Commander, so does that go to the real-time crime center?
Yes, so what happens is that each officer, all officers have their city phone. So when there's an activation, the officer gets the activation on the phone. Now, officers obviously are going to turn it off when they go home, but the officers that are on duty have to have that on. And once an activation happens, the ECC will also get the activation, but it's within, within seconds. I mean, as soon as it happens, we get that activation. The officers know where it happened, and then they start heading towards that area. A call is generated as a 393S, which is a ShotSpotter call. And, there's going to be a minimum of 2 officers, field officers that have to respond. Sometimes detectives may be in the area. And so when they respond, they're required to, if they don't see anything, find any witnesses or anything like that, then they're required to get out of their vehicle and actually go on foot and do, I believe it's, at first I thought it was an 82, but I think it's 25, I think it's 25 feet or so, maybe more, sorry. But they have to do a certain area, a certain radius that they have to walk. Where in the past, it was more, because officers didn't know exactly where it came from. They would just kind of drive around. With this, it makes it better because they go to that location for the ShotSpotter and then walk around and at least try to find evidence. So yes, the ECC will generate a call.
Okay, and there was a question about the accuracy of this system. It's really pretty amazing that it differentiates gunshots from any similar type of sound.
It does. We get this a lot where it says, well, what about a car backfiring or fireworks? It does not. It does differentiate between that and the actual gunshots. We do. I will say that we do turn them off during New Year's Eve and the 4th of July. Not because it's going to pick up the fireworks, but because people go out and shoot. I mean, and really, it comes down to there would just be it would just be so many calls that I think it would be impossible for officers to, for us to clear those calls, during that night. It would just be too much. But
Yeah,
it does distinguish between gunshots and other sounds. It's very accurate, very, very accurate.
Good. And as you said, we did have, there was at least one case where the responding officers found a homicide victim, thanks to ShotSpotter. So if somebody is injured, this speeds up that, that response process, and there's the potential to save lives with it. So very exciting that it's coming here, and look forward to hearing about what good it's doing and how it's working out for the Northwest. All right, I think we've answered all of the questions that have come up so far. If anybody else has questions, please, again, put them in the chat for us. And as you've seen, Commander Sanchez is happy to answer any questions you have. And he's been very brutally honest with us about what's going on. We do have, what can we do from Sydney? What can we do to show the officers and the department our appreciation for what they're doing? What can we do to kind of give back?
Well,
other than show up to coffee with a cop and actually tell the officers that you really appreciate them.
yeah, you know what? I think, well, and I didn't get to say this earlier, but I just, I do want to thank everybody that helped and volunteered. I mean, the officer appreciation that we had on the 27th really just showed our officers, how much support they have. You already did that. I can tell you there was so much support, not only with volunteers, but with donations that we actually had. I had to tell the officers or the supervisor, the Lieutenant Edison, I had to tell them, hey, we cannot take any more donations because all of them go through the chaplains. But I don't know if well, you know what, I will have to paint you a picture. It was that we ended up, I think we ended up with a total of about $23,000 in total in donations for them, which is, and I tell you that number because it goes to show how much support there is up here in the Northwest for our officers. And our officers saw that, they know that. So you have already done that. How we can continue to support our officers, I do ask as an air commander, just anytime you run into an officer, just say hi to them. I think that really says a lot. And the coffees with the cop and those things, those are good also. I think and that's why we do them. They're important not only for the business where we have them and the community in that area, but also for the officers because they do like to hear that. And just by just supporting some of the initiatives that we have, and be patient. I always say, you know what, you hold us accountable when we're not doing our job, and you let me know right away and let us know as a department. But just the understanding of there, where sometimes certain things take a little bit of time, but really just with the officers, just say hi to them, and I can tell you that goes a long, long way.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And yeah, we'll try to keep doing that and keep waving to the officers with all of your fingers. That's always
Yes,
appreciated.
please.
Just just letting the officers know that we see them and we see them as people and we appreciate them. That's sometimes the best we can do and something we can all do pretty easily. All right. Our next item on the agenda is an update on recruiting. And Lieutenant Saladin, did you want to cover that tonight, or do you have an update for us? Maybe not.
I'm sorry, I'm having trouble unmuting my phone here.
Okay.
An event. And I don't know if anyone from recruiting is on.
I don't.
I can tell you that currently we have 48 cadets in the 124th cadet class, and we have 16 cadets at the 6th CNM class. 124 will graduate October 22nd, and CNM 6 will come to the APD Academy. I think it's December 17th, and be with us for about 2 more months. In between that, we'll have the 125th cadet class starting, and the chief is anticipating 70 cadets seated. We currently are hovering around 40.
Excellent. Thank you. I know, I don't think we have anybody else from recruiting joining us tonight, which is unusual. Usually they're here to give us the update. So thank you, Lieutenant. Thank you
I apologize for the
filling in.
noise. I'm out at Lobo softball field at an event.
Oh, very nice. I hope you enjoy it. And thank you for joining us tonight and filling in with that information. We appreciate that.
Absolutely. You bet.
All right. Let's see. Our next item is an update on the Internal Affairs Unit and the External Force Investigation Team. And I believe we have Deputy Chief Evans, and go ahead, sir.
All right. So, no, I'm Deputy Commander.
Deputy
Richard.
Commander. Okay.
Yeah, I got promoted. All right.
Hey, there you go.
No, I'm the acting commander right now for the Internal Affairs Force Division. And I wanted to just give you a brief about what we do and kind of what we see over there and give you a short brief on the external force investigators that are working with us through the stipulated order. So at IAFD, we investigate all level 2 and 3 uses of force. So the higher levels of force that come in, we go out and do a preliminary interview, and then we do a full investigation of those to include interviews and collect evidence and photographs and things of that nature. We're also responsible for any identified potential policy violations that we find throughout our investigation of that force. So once we identify that, then we send off the request for the investigation, and that comes back to us as well. We work about, on average, probably about 8 to 12 cases a week. We have 3 officers that are on call weekly, and the external force investigating team, they go on these call outs with us. So they are not a force multiplier, and they also do not do their own investigations. So those are kind of the 2 misconceptions that I'm hearing a lot of right now. Think of them more as a mentor, a shadow phase. So there's several teams that fly into Albuquerque, and they stay in a house that they have rented here, and they are responsible for responding with us on these cases that we go out on. So we have a 1-hour response time, and so do they. So they show up and they work with our detectives starting from the very beginning of these cases. And then once those cases are finished, the on-scene investigation is finished, then they continue with that case throughout its completion. And it's more of a mentoring. They check on them weekly. We all do. We check on these cases weekly to see their status, where they're at. And it's more to get us up to speed on completing these cases in a timely manner and making sure that they have all of the content and that they are complete in order to bring us into compliance. Recently, we received an influx of new personnel that we're training. So I am grateful in that respect that they are kind of a force multiplier, that the people that they hire to go out with our detectives are retired chiefs, retired commanders that have worked multiple, like 10 years, some of them in internal affairs, some of them have worked in a force division. They all have different skill sets, but all of them are very talented. And in that respect, it's like I have a bunch of supervisors riding with my detectives. So it's great, especially having such a new squad. Per the stipulated order, I received, I have 26 detectives or investigators right now, and 5 of those are civilians. So as far as I know, we're kind of a pioneer on using civilians, and, we're going to see how that turns out. So far, I've been impressed with what they've put forth in training, and they do take a little bit longer to train because they're not familiar with. I'm real excited to see what they put out in the field, and they go live this week. So we'll see how that turns out. But any questions so far? Nothing so far?
Not
Okay.
yet.
All right. So on the 28th, I received the other misconception that I'm getting is I think I heard on the news or somewhere that we had 90 people investigating force. That's not true. We definitely do not have 90 people investigating. Like I said, I have 26, and most of those aren't even trained yet. So, or about half of them aren't trained. They're in the training process. And like I said, for civilians, it takes much longer than the detectives. Detectives, our turnaround is usually about a month. And for the civilians, I found that it's going inward about 90 days. So EFIT, when they're working with us, I collaborate with their admin personnel on these cases as we work them side by side. And our goal is to get all these cases turned in within 60 days, which is our ultimate goal once we get fully staffed. Right now, we're doing really well. We haven't had any cases taken, which is one of their options. If they believe that a case is not going to be completed on time, then or if they believe that there's some sort of misconduct conducted by the detective, they can take that case and finish it themselves. We have not had any of these cases taken to this point. I'm hoping it continues. I mean, we take a lot of cases and we weren't at sufficient staffing. So we kind of have this tidal wave of cases looming over us, and I'm trying to get people trained as quick as possible to handle that. But it's just we're gonna have to see what happens on this, but we're shooting, of course, that no cases get taken from us. But so far so good. Certainly our goal is to become CASA compliant, and in my time over there, we've made a lot of steps forward into achieving that. And funny enough, of course, I think some of you know, I come from the Northwest. So probably the last time I spoke to you, I was talking about people on motorcycles racing down Coors. But I appreciate you all having me tonight, and I'll open it for any questions that you may have.
Okay, I have one for you. So you're at 26 investigators now. What would be full staffed for your department?
That is full staffing right now. So per the stipulated order, I have to have 25 investigators. So technically I'm one over. That one that's over is a civilian. And it's probably good that I keep at least one over, because being that it is a federal court order, I don't want to go under. And I did this last go around, I did have to order four officers out of the field to my unit. I just can't staff it. It's not right now, it's probably not a real desirable place to work. And we're trying to change that. We made a lot of changes over there, but right now it's tough to get staffing. So I had to order those, and I don't like doing that because I know I wouldn't like it if I signed up to be a field cop, and here I'm getting yanked in to do investigations on other police officers. But it is what it is. I have to comply with the court order. So it's always a last resort, but we did achieve our full staffing, and I'm excited about that. And the officers are not showing any sign of being disgruntled. The officers that are over there are giving it their all, and I'm really impressed with how they've kind of taken to this. So I'm excited to work with them.
Excellent. And are you planning on bringing in more civilians at any point, or do you think you'll keep the kind of balance you have now?
We do plan on bringing some more in. I've got 5 kind of in the pipeline right now that we'll probably be hiring and bring them in. Of course, as we get more civilians, and if it's working out like we're hoping it will, then we could probably get some of these detectives back out into the field. But it's kind of, like I said, we're kind of pioneers in this respect. As far as I know, I don't know of any other agency that's done this with civilians. To investigate something from an objective, reasonable standard from the eyes of a normal, reasonable officer on scene when you've never been an officer, it's got to be incredibly difficult. So we're going to have to see how that works out. But I'm optimistic. They've turned in some real good quality work, and I'm excited to see what they have to offer.
And has there been a lot of pushback from the union on having civilians do the investigations?
Not with me, no. I think they're probably at a catch-22, because if I don't bring in civilians, that means I'm pulling more officers in and probably mandating them in, and they don't like that either. So at some point, they kind of have to find the lesser of the two evils as well. And, they're probably on a sort of wait and see thing too, I would imagine. I mean, I don't want to speak for Sean, but they've been real reasonable with me so far. And, I think it's one of those wait and see. All of us are kind of holding our breath to see how it works out.
That's a good point. I think, as you said, we don't have a lot of precedent for what happens when civilians do the investigations here, but I think it's important for us all to keep track of this. Is the civilians are doing the investigation, and that's part of the process of dealing with issues or policy violations. That's not the ending of the process, but the beginning. So hopefully it'll continue, as you said, to go well, and it'll become a model for other places. To the more officers we can keep on the streets, the better.
Certainly. And that's always our goal. And these civilians, I'm not going to have them doing misconduct investigations, but they can do those force investigations and identify the misconduct, and then we can send it up to detectives. I probably would have a battle on my hands with the union if I did that, but yeah, it could very well turn into a model for other agencies across the country. So I'm optimistic for sure.
Excellent. If anybody has questions, please put them in the chat for us or the Q&A. Does anybody on the board have any questions for Commander Evans? All right. I'm not seeing anything else come up at the moment. So thank you, Commander. We appreciate you joining us tonight and giving us this update. And we look forward to hearing more as the whole process develops and getting more good news about it. So thank
Absolutely.
you.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Okay, let me switch back to if I can find my agenda again. I think the next things we have on our agenda, we have some old business. We got a couple of responses to recommendations that we had sent out. And the first one of those was dealing with intersection traffic enforcement. So we had requested that the traffic unit work to put on some TAC plans targeting specific intersections that had been problematic for accidents in the past. We did get the response back on that, and that recommendation was actually denied based on new information or more current information showing that accidents at those intersections have declined due to the red light runners that had been a problem in 2017 and 18. So I think using those, if those are our criteria for doing intersection enforcement sweeps, then yeah, I can understand why the traffic unit would say we don't see it as necessary or as necessary as it was. They are committed to continuing to pursue speeding and reckless driving, which are the driving factors behind the majority of our accidents now. I think I've gotten a lot of response from council members to say they disagree with the decision from APD, and I think we are likely to reformat that recommendation and perhaps send it back for reconsideration. So we will, I think there's still a benefit to doing some very high profile intersection enforcement, and perhaps we'll reword our request and let the traffic unit know that we still have an interest in this and still see a value in it. The other recommendation that we sent in was on equipping all of the patrol vehicles with moving radar systems. And this is a case of great minds think alike. The department is already in the process of equipping more vehicles with radar systems. The response we got back was they've ordered 100 radar units to be distributed among the patrol vehicles. So that's a good start. And hopefully we will see that continue as the budget allows. These systems run typically a couple of $1,000s each. So this is not a cheap endeavor. But again, we think it has benefit to the community when we have more officers capable of doing constant surveillance on speeding and reckless driving. And when you've got, again, when you have data, when an officer can present to the court that they were recorded somebody driving down Coors at 74 miles per hour, that's a lot more convincing than the person was going really fast. So the more data we have, the more convictions there are likely to be, the stronger the reasons for traffic stops. So we look forward to that. Recommendation was accepted as it was because the department was already working on it. So we look forward to hearing more as that process goes on, and we'll stay on top of the department to see how that distribution of radar units is going and what impact it's having in the area commands. We do have 2 events going on this week, excuse me, that were listed in the agenda. On Friday, September 17th, we have Coffee with a Cop going on. This is at the Chick-Fil-A on Coors at St. Joseph's. It's on from 9 to 11 on Friday. So if you are available, come on out and meet with some of our Northwest officers and commanders and supervisors. And again, this is an opportunity to let them know that you appreciate what they're doing and to have any questions you have answered. The other event is going on Saturday, the 18th. So this Saturday from 9:30 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. APD is doing a VIN etching event. And what this is, APD will take the VIN number from your vehicle and etch it into the glass windows on your vehicle. It makes your vehicle less likely to be sold off for parts and makes it much easier for police to identify if it's found stolen. A lot of shops will look for parts, and the big parts are what sell for the most money. So somebody takes a door off your car and sells it, wonderful. You're out of luck trying to get that back. But if it's got a VIN number etched into the window, that's that much harder to sell. So this is a free event. Both of these events are completely free. So come out on Friday to Chick-fil-A between 9 and 11, meet the officers, have a chance to chat one-on-one with some of our officers. And then Saturday from 9:30 to 2:30, this is at the Target at I-25 in Paseo. You can come out, get your VIN number etched onto your vehicle windows. And again, it's a chance to meet with some of our local officers. I think the auto unit's going to be out there. Auto theft unit, I think, coordinates these. So it's a chance to meet some of those folks and hear what else they're up to. And anything we can do to deter thieves, the better off for us. There was a question that came up on how many of the 100 radar units are coming to the Northwest. I don't know, Commander, do you have any idea on that?
So we are getting 15. We're going to set up 15 of our officers. So right now they're doing 15 for every area command. They're going to increase those. And there were 100, I believe, total that were ordered. So yes, but we're getting 15.
Excellent. Good to hear. Thank you. Okay. Our next CPC meeting is coming up on October 20th, a Wednesday again. And we have scheduled to appear I believe it's going to be the acting commander in charge of the Real-Time Crime Center, or RTCC. And also we'll be getting an update on Vision Zero, which is the city's plan to reduce fatalities and with vehicle accidents, including pedestrians and bicycles. So hopefully we'll have some really good information. The RTCC handles information like the ShotSpotter information. They provide a lot of data to officers responding to calls about histories at addresses and things like that. They're also the group that ties into local business cameras. If you have a commercial business or a restaurant and you have cameras, you can actually sign up to be part of the RTCC program, where they can, in the event of a crime happening at your place of business, they can tap into the cameras and convey information to responding officers. So I know Blake's was one of the businesses that signed on early for this. And so if there's a robbery at a Blake's, the RTCC can tap into their cameras, see exactly what's going on, and let the responding officers know exactly what they're seeing live and as it's occurring. So it's a really impressive program. I look forward to hearing more about that. And Vision Zero, as I said, is an initiative that the city's putting together. So it'll be good to get some updates on that, find out what's going on, what the plans are for the city. And that, again, will help address some of the issues that we have here in the Northwest with speeding, reckless driving, and things of that sort. Go ahead,
Eric?
Commander.
Yeah, and so, and we're still, I know we discussed it before, we're still open to doing that tour of the RTCC that we had talked about. I think, I know I got an email, I believe it was maybe Jeff.
Probably, yeah, Jeff, I think.
So
Yep.
we are still open to doing that. We don't have to do it all at once. If the, one or two want to do it, just give me some times and dates when you can do it. And then we'll set it up so that either myself or one of the lieutenants or even somebody at the RTCC can kind of walk you all through kind of give you a tour.
Excellent. Yeah, it's been a number of years since I was last out there, and so it's a great facility. And yeah, we'll see if we can't get a date together and get some folks from the council to have an opportunity to go out and see it and talk to the folks there. All right. I don't see any other issues coming up in the chat or the questions. So I think that is about all we have today. Give everyone a chance to see if there's anything else. Does anybody on the council have anything else they'd like to bring up? Okay, Clinton has asked about the plan to hire more dispatchers and call takers at the Emergency Communication Center. This has been an ongoing problem that I think we're all familiar with. When you call, especially 242 cops, the wait times can be much longer than ideal. The ECC has struggled to get to and maintain full staffing, and that's I think a function of just the difficulty of the job and the difficulty right now, at least in getting people to hire onto jobs. We see that in a lot of places. Perhaps we can, one of the things we'll discuss at our executive session is upcoming speakers. And Erica Wilson has always done an outstanding job of updating us on what's going on at the ECC. So maybe we can have her come out and give us another presentation, perhaps in November or December, as we've got next month lined up. But yeah, that's definitely a concern, and she can give us information about the actual data on call times, response numbers, call numbers, et cetera. It's just mind blowing what they deal with out there. All right. Okay, I think that's about everything we had on tonight's agenda. So I would like to, Kelly had posted in the chat, if anybody in the community is interested in joining your CPC, if you're here in the Northwest, we'd love to have you. If you're anywhere else in the city, we have every area command has its own CPC. And I think we're always open to new volunteers, new council members to join us and get involved and help us make our recommendations and figure out what we need from APD and how we can get what we want and what we need from them. So please, if you're interested, let us know, and we look forward to hearing from folks. Otherwise, if you joined us tonight, you should be on our mailing list for the October meeting. So we'll send out reminders, and you'll get the agenda when that's published. So I think that is everything we have. So at that point, I think we shall go ahead and we'll call this a night, call it a complete meeting. Thank you to everyone. Thank you, Commander Sanchez, for joining us and for answering all of our questions. And thank you to Lieutenant, I'm probably going to mispronounce your name here. Napoleon, is it, or Napoleon?
Napoleon's fine.
Okay. Thank you for joining us. We look forward to hearing from you when you can join us in the future. Lieutenant Saladin was nice enough to join us and fill in for the update on the recruiting data. And thank you to everyone that joined us tonight. I hope you got some good information. I appreciate everyone's questions and look forward to hearing from you as we approach October. Feel free to send us, if you have questions that you want answers to, feel free to reach out to us. We'll do our best to get you answers as quickly as we can. All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful evening. Look forward to seeing you all again in the near future. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. See you on the 25th.
You got it.